Hello and welcome to another episode of Waste Perspective. In this episode, we'll look at what has transpired since the last set of developments in India-US relationship, particularly where is the trade negotiations headed, and how does the India-US relationship compare in the shadow of everything that is happening around the world with Trump administration's attempt to get a ceasefire on Russia. Now, one of the most important developments on the bilateral level has been not so good news, which is there was a team which was expected from the United States to come to India, which was subsequently cancelled their visit to India or postponed their visit to India, which means that there are uh, two sets of expectations that could flow out from that. The first is that the Trump administration wants to focus more comprehensively on getting a ceasefire with Russia, and that's taking much of the bulk of time that the Trump administration is having to invest. The second, of course, is that this is, of course, a pressure tactic on India to put enough pressure on India to open sort of some of the sensitive sectors like dairy and agriculture and other fraught issues. Now, there are, of course, it seems to be the latter, which is weighing more on India-US relationship, which is Trump administration is pretty bullish on the idea that India should open certain sensitive sectors, which it hasn't till now, and fall in line with the United States' demand. But two or three things. One, the United States knows that it is being completely unreasonable with the kind of negotiation tactics that it has employed subsequently since the talks began. Now, and while the Indian side has maintained uh, a, a, a semblance in the talks that they do want to seal the deal. The Trump administration, on the other hand, has drawn a line, has drawn several red lines, and said that, well, if any of these are not met, then there is no deal. And so, in such circumstances, the negotiation faith, or how much the United States is in good faith while negotiating this, is an open interpretation, and then that becomes subsequently the most difficult impediment in negotiations between the two sides. Now, of course, the Trump administration has linked the entire idea to the fact that we're putting secondary sanctions on India because it is buying Russian oil. Now, all of us who track the India-US bilateral and the US Russia bilateral very closely, and the US-China bilateral know very closely, know it for a fact that truth couldn't be further from this. Now, if you look at China, of course, it's the largest importer of oil. Now, there, the Trump administration, of course, knows China's leverage and therefore has employed a completely different tactic, which is it is going on extending the goalposts for the tariffs to land. And it has given, most recently, about a week back, 90 days, which means 3 additional months to China to negotiate a tariff. What comes out of the US China compact is again going to significantly impact not just the supply chains, but I think bilateral geopolitics and multilateral geopolitics all across the world. And therefore, the question really for other partners is that how do they reposition vis-a-vis the United States? And I think subsequently, what we are going to see in global politics, be it in Latin America, be it in Africa, and be it in the Middle East, that and in Asia, is that more and more countries will reposition themselves regardless of how they've had their relationship with the United States. And I think that should concern the United States more than it should concern any other country in the long term. In the short term, of course, the United States sits with an advantage of being the largest economy, of using tariff as a weapon, and so on and so forth. But the most important thing here is is continuity in bilateral relationship. And I think the Trump administration should not do damage to the bilateral relationship by negotiating in good faith. And I think there are areas that can really open up new avenues in India, and of course provide opportunities for reform. And therefore, internally, those discussions are also as important in India as to how we should carry out these reforms. And I think the Prime Minister chaired a significant meeting for the next generation reforms, both in the IT and the financial sectors. And subsequently, that will, of course, impact how we trade with other nations. So I think good faith is the baseline from where both India and the United States should engage going forward. Thank you.